product market fit. It was getting an angry phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning from Texas because the system wasn't working. And when you compare that to the 2 or 3 years prior, where our system wasn't working, but nobody noticed.
Somewhere between experimenting with AI and a fundamentally different company, there's a breakthrough. The founders on this show got there faster than most people think possible. This show finds out how. Each week, one founder, one honest story. What broke, what they built, and what their company looks like now. If you're ready to make the breakthrough faster than you thought possible, you're in the right place. This is Breakthrough AI Operators. Here's your host, Roland Sieblink.
Hello, welcome everyone. Here's yet another episode of Breakthrough AI Operators. And today I'm super honored to have a guest all the way from Europe. He co-founded one of Ireland's most visited websites in the early internet era, and he sold it before most people had even heard of SaaS. And then he spent 5 years in Berlin doing nothing, by design. And when he came back, he spotted a gap that most software founders would never even look at. How do you keep a camera alive on a construction site for 2 years without maintenance? Not AI, not analytics, just make it work. 12 years and 13,000 years of construction video later, that boring obsession has become a construction intelligence platform trusted by Intel, Microsoft, Meta, and Shell. And with that, everyone, meet my guest, Marco Herbst. Welcome to the show, Marco.
Roland, thank you very much for that introduction. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. You're dialing in from Dublin, is that right?
I'm in Wicklow, which is just about 1 hour south on the East Coast, 1 hour south of Dublin.
Let's talk business, Marco. You went boring on purpose, hardware reliability before AI. Was that conviction or was it constraint?
Yeah. So that's part of our story. Really, it's about the people we were selling to. So I've always been interested, myself and my business partner, in cameras as a communications tool and all the great things that you can get from it. But you can't get much if it doesn't work. And making it work in a construction environment is surprisingly hard. So a lot of our initial energy was just making sure that we were able to deliver that part of the puzzle. And I think that in hindsight, that's actually what separated us from a lot of other people who also understood the potential of the technology. But in a world where there's a construction project that's got a 12-month or an 18-month deadline, nobody's interested in waiting 24 months until it works. So you can say it was by constraint.
By constraint, exactly. Well, tons of questions already arising from that, but tell us the story how you even landed in construction, because that was not the business you were traditionally in, right?
You mentioned in the intro that I spent 5 years doing nothing in Berlin. I'll have you know I was very busy doing nothing.
And you still complimented me on the intro, so that was amazing.
I was very busy doing nothing. I filled every day. It just maybe wasn't all productivity orientated. From my bedroom window, I could see this gardening project, the Prinzessinnen Garten, that the guys were putting together, and also this old piano factory that was being converted. So I started to make a time lapse video for the people who were involved in the projects as I got to know them, because I had this great view.
The view, yeah.
And I actually became kind of enamored with the technology. It was the IP cameras were just arriving then. This is around 2010, and Axis, the Swedish company, had just made their first model of this little IP cameras. Things were moving to the cloud. That was sort of the big word in tech. The AI of its day was cloud-based software. And so we put those two ideas together, and we were pulling images to the cloud. We built a really nice UI, which is very unusual in the world of cameras. And I knew we had something, but at the time, what I got wrong was I didn't think it was about looking at construction sites. Effectively, that's what we were doing. And we went in the direction of security, which seemed more logical. It seemed like the bigger existing market. I quickly learned that wasn't my place. Number one, we didn't have the product market fit. What we were bringing wasn't a good enough improvement on basically traditional in security, where you're recording and you wouldn't look at those recordings unless there is an incident, and you might have kind of 50 or 100 cameras and one person looking at it. So it was just an industry where we weren't really fitting in very well. And I was still interested in cameras as a communications tool, and what can you get from a camera that wasn't security, which is also where cloud and the web and internet, played a bigger role. So just kept on developing out the technology, found our way back. Well, actually started working on APIs for cameras because there was a whole load of problems there. They were difficult to write software for. And we ended up having to solve a lot of those problems. Again, I would say just didn't quite get the product market fit because we were one step away from the customer building APIs. Hit construction and immediately knew we had it. Right? We were solving very real, very important problems. You had real time visibility into the construction project. We were able to do it with high resolution video. We were able to record the video and solving real problems. By that stage, I was back in Ireland, and we had American clients who were doing kind of big investments in Irish construction projects. They were able to use Evercam. They became really dependent on it, and we knew we had something good, and we've sort of worked from there.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned product market fit and knowing when you have it. Now, Michael Seibel of Y Combinator often says one of the biggest problems is every founder thinks they have product market fit long before they actually have it in our definition. What's your definition of product market fit, and how do you know if you have it?
It was getting an angry phone call at 2:00 in the morning from Texas because the system wasn't working. And when you compare that to the 2 or 3 years prior, where our system wasn't working, but nobody noticed. And that was really depressing. Getting the angry customer who really cared and who was really using the system and needed it back online, that's when we knew we had something, and something really valuable.
Is that a similar definition you would apply to, let's say, a startup that you might invest in as an angel, something that another founder is running? Can you always apply that definition to any tech business, would you say?
Oh, don't know. I haven't heard it said before, but it's a reasonable test. Turn it off and see if someone cares. Yeah, there's been so many like just essential steps in the Evercam journey. And product market fit is one thing, but you need your go to market. You've got to have a way of delivering it that is profitable. Identifying your customer profile who you can efficiently sell to. There's all these pieces, and it changed over time. So Ireland would be our home market, and now in Ireland we're very well established. It would be very unusual for there to be a large project that we're not involved with. UK similar, we're very dominant there. What took us global was the mission critical space, the data center, pharmaceutical, semiconductor, the sort of big expensive projects that are very, very high value, and where feedback is just extra important. If a problem is detected late, you're adding a lot of zeros onto the cost of that problem. Cameras are fantastic for spotting those issues
that's
early.
actually the monetization dimension of product market fit, then, like understanding like how your product actually lets a customer save money or get them more sales in certain cases.
In our industry, if there's construction tech people listening, that they'll be very familiar with, are you selling to the contractor? Are you selling to the owner? Are you selling to subcontractors? And it really matters. Sometimes you end up having to sell to all of them, as we do. Projects have an end date. So as a business, you want predictable revenue. We want long-term commitments. We don't want all this kind of churn at the end of every project. So getting that part of your model right is really significant. And construction is very regional. One of the big transformations that happened, is if we talk about sort of early stage to scale up, was this idea around being regional. When we're selling into Australia, into Singapore, the Middle East, across Europe, Ireland, England, and America, each of those markets is very different, and we're at a very different stage in each of those markets. So I was finding myself in a board meeting, trying to explain our numbers to my board of directors, but having massive complexities between what was happening in Australia, where I might be having, say, operational problems of delivering cameras into the desert, America, where we've got these enormous giga projects with their own dynamics, fewer projects but much higher value, and then say the Irish English market dynamics. To try and tell a coherent story was very hard. So the big change we made to our business was dividing it up into profit and business unit profit centers. So regional profit centers that report up a P&L. And that meant that at my level, as I'm trying to explain the story to the board and explain our market rollout, I only had to do really the addition of the P&Ls. And the managing directors were able to make their own market strategies, go-to-market strategies that suited their market and where they were in the life cycle of that market.
you hired a CCO in March, right? Was that your first CCO? Were you running founder-led sales all the way until then?
Yeah, I've been very lucky in the Evercam story in that I've always had a business partner who has really looked after the commercial side of things. From the very beginning, Vinny Quinn is my co-founder, also with whom we did Jobs.ie together,
Okay.
and worked together prior to that. So Vinny was always the customer-facing end, which allowed me to talk to the programmers and the machines, which is my comfort zone.
Fair enough. Yeah.
At a certain point, as we started to go into UK and Europe, I got to meet Randall O'Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Was just a fantastic. If Vinny was the 0 to 1 co-founder, Randall was the 1 to 10.
Yeah.
1 million to 10 million, and which is pretty much exactly actually what Randall did do for us.
Great.
And now, as the company is just going beyond 10 million, I got to meet Paul Devlin, who was really familiar with platforms, really familiar with that sort of 10 to 100.
Yeah. What would you say is different in people's thinking when they're more 0 to 1 person versus a 1 to 10 person versus a 10 to 100 person? And not just in sales, but also I'm guessing you're seeing similar patterns in other functions as well, right?
0 to 1, I think you're chasing a lot of things because you're still looking for product market fit. And as you quoted there, Michael Siebel, that you can write invoices, but you don't necessarily have product market fit. That's a lot of what Vinny was able to do. Vinny created the business from that point of view. He discovered construction, discovered those customers. He discovered an awful lot of other things, but that was the one that really worked.
So really like customer discovery as the very core in a sense?
Yeah. Right. So he had to be much more of a generalist. He had to understand more of the tech. He didn't want to get too constrained to any particular system. And that's what Vinny's great at. He's a natural problem solver. He gets to know people, and he walks into a room and all he wants to do is solve problems and leave that room better than he found it. Randall really understood the sales floor. So he wanted to take Vinny's success and turn it into a system. And he gave us the first structure on our sales team. So the first playbooks, the first sort of specializations of a BDR team versus the sales team versus customer success, all that kind of early type stuff. We were basically still selling the thing that Vinny had discovered. And if I think about what Paul is doing for us now, it's a whole kind of level of maturity beyond that. It's not just revenue, but it's the quality of revenue. Like, how predictable is that revenue? How far in the future is it? Really understanding the pipeline, what Paul calls revenue intelligence. So the value conversations change. We're generally selling a little further up the org. We're talking more about trust and positioning and strategic alignment with our customers, because we're asking them to make a longer commitment to us and much more of a commitment to our ideas, which is reality-driven intelligence, right? It is what is the value of this data? Why would our customer want to capture it? Why do we want to run analytics on it? It's a much higher level conversation, basically, because we're asking for bigger adoption and bigger commitment.
So tell me a little bit more about how AI has been changing reality-driven intelligence for you.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, we were always interested in what could be done with the power of the image, and computer vision has been certainly talked about for a very long time. And in controlled environments, it has worked over the last few years. But construction is probably the least controlled environment you'll ever work in. In the last 12 months, we've all seen it in different ways, whether it's your ChatGPT moment, etc. What we're now getting from images and video with the VLMs is extraordinary. It would have started with relatively simple object detection. Our first product 4 years ago was counting the vehicles as they arrived on site. In hindsight, relatively straightforward. It happens to be very interesting for our customers because it's a strong indicator of, is the project on track or not? How much soil has left site? How much concrete has arrived? The concrete will not arrive if your project isn't ready. It's a strong signal. But now we're much more interested in detecting hazardous situations, people working at height, people working with hot objects. These are much more subjective observations. And
for liability's sake or safety reasons?
Yeah, well, the essence of construction safety is detecting hazardous activities. And preparing for them. So most hazardous activities are pre-planned. There are supposed to be kind of risk assessments done in advance. So if those things are happening on site and the risk assessments don't exist, or they were unscheduled, that's a thing. And it's a thing that
Yeah.
we want to report upstream to often to some of our software partners who are also being used by our customers.
Yeah.
Companies like Navitech or Hammertech, who are good in the safety space.
You were already mentioning briefly that you did some migration upwards from contractor sales to more the owner sales, right? So can you tell us a little bit more how difficult that transition was and how you accomplished it at the end?
As we got established and as it became better understood the value of the project management type cameras that we sell, owners started to realize that this is data that they wanted control of and they wanted, sometimes because of disputes, but also sometimes just to have that independent verification of what was going on. And they are the ultimate beneficiary. When a project is delivered on time and on budget, the owner wins. So it was a natural evolution. I can't say that we really drove it. We certainly advocated for it, but it is what we've been experiencing over the last 10 years. What's really interesting in our industry is the challenge of better understanding and predicting ROI, return on investment.
Yeah.
So cameras were often bought somewhat as an insurance policy that we any of our clients and say, oh, look, can you think of a situation where you would have liked to have had the video, right? And they all can, right? And that was our sort of way of presenting the value. Now that we've been at this game for 15 years nearly, we have a massive database of stories from our customers, actual anecdotes. And again, we're in the business of recording and creating structured data. So we have recorded these anecdotes, these conversations, testimonials, right? And we've turned them into structured data. We've turned them into 100 of the most commonly quoted workflows that deliver value from reality-driven intelligence. So we literally have workflows.evercam.io. And it's a list of the 100 use cases, workflows where reality capture is delivering real monetizable value. What that allows us to do, because they keep recurring again and again and again and again, right? And what that allows us to do is I find out from you about your upcoming project. You're building a data center in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a $180 million project. It's going to take 2.5 years. I've seen that before. We feed it into the system. I know what workflows are going to exist on your project because same on the other projects. And I'm able to put money values and time values on it. So I can tell you with a good level of confidence and a very, very transparent formula for how we came to those assumptions, exactly how much you'll make from the project. That's new. That's really, really unheard of. And it moves us away from this sort of insurance defensive based product to something where the customer can see this is a transaction that's going to make me money.
It's not just reality driven; it's like almost prediction driven in that sense, right? That you're getting into the functional of project management and project planning a lot more than you were before.
Exactly. We were talking there about some of the kind of the 101 lessons of business, and one of the 101s is do one thing really, really, really well. And when it comes to Evercam delivering value, that was always hard for us because it's a big investment to implement a camera system, as you said. And we might have 40 or 50 daily active users on some of our projects, right? And they've all got different job titles. Some of those people are safety, some are logistics, some are project management, progress tracking. They've all got their own relationship to the camera and to the data the camera is producing. We simply don't have one particular thing. We appeal to all of them. And we want to as well. A customer doesn't want to go and buy 5 different systems to solve 5 different problems if one system can do all of it. So when we're presenting our ROI calculator, what it does is it lays out, here are all the different ways it's going to save you. There's a line item and a dollar amount beside each one. And the sum total is what our customer gets.
That's a pretty compelling offering, right? So does that mean you're primarily selling to the CFO in the end?
That has always been our dream. From the very beginning, myself and Vinny said, we know we will have been successful when it's the CFO making the decision. And we're simply putting in front of them plain numbers. I would have to say that is not where we are at the moment.
I love that vision and I love the workflows. A small question about that though, like you're just putting 100 most common workflows openly on your website. Why give that away?
One, because ultimately I think it's the right thing to do, but we are in our heart a company that believes in open. You know, I said to you when I found myself in the security industry, I knew I was culturally in the wrong place
Okay.
because we believe in communication.
Yep.
My life experience as I've become as I am a fan of technology and the internet
Mm-hmm.
and, and what we're doing now is sharing information leads to good outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Evercam at its very best, we're running the workflows, the agentic workflows that are feeding our customers' systems. And what happens below that? The making the cameras work, the turning that unstructured data into structured data, the source of that information. The more of that we don't have to do, the better.
Mm-hmm.
The wider and broader this ecosystem is, the better. The faster it's adopted, the better. And I fundamentally believe if we are open and sharing our what we call the Evercam 100,
Mm-hmm.
that is a tide that will lift all boats. So
Okay. It's in the
some
works.
of yes, like even if it didn't make business sense, I'd probably do it anyway.
Right.
But we are of the belief that it does make business sense, and we're of the belief that over the long arc, collaboration wins.
Mm-hmm. That maybe drives us a little bit more to your own evolution as a founder, Marco. You mentioned something in the prep call that you've gone through a quite tremendous evolution all the way from being the font police to management by joy. Can you
Hmm.
describe your evolution?
I think every founder sort of hopes that at some point they might find themselves part of a sort of a global category leader opportunity,
Yep.
something that really like of that scale. But regardless of whether Evercam is able to really be the category leader, there's no doubt that this category is happening right now
Yep.
in our space, and we're very well positioned. Having that size of opportunity in front of you sets a few rules of like
Mm-hmm.
the sort of talent you need, the sort of capital you need, the sort of speed you have to execute at. Um, if I go back in time 15 years ago, as we were still trying to find our way and not run out of money,
Yep.
uh, um, it was a different mindset, and it was much more controlling and management by constraint. Right now, as we're all experiencing, like regardless of job title, if your eyes are open, we are seeing these incredible new technologies that are just changing how things are being done in ways that are very hard to predict. I describe it as the great acceleration because I don't think there's anything else that I can definitively say. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
whether this is job creation. We don't know whether it's job destruction. We don't know whether it's great for society or the end of society. All we know is it's moving very, very fast.
And we can't
So,
ignore it, right?
and we can't ignore it, right? So internally in Evercam, what I do care about is that we're paying attention and we are all trying as best we can to engage with these new tools, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I've actually found when people are coming to me with look, shall I try this or shall I try this? My question back is which option would seem more fun? Which would give you more joy?
Mm.
And it's seeming to work, funnily enough. And I think it comes down to what matters most is that people are self-motivated, excited by what they're doing, and I think also sometimes our stomachs tell us what the right answer is when we don't have enough information to work it out otherwise. Um, so yeah, management by joy is the new management by constraint.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we're almost at the end of the business talk, but I always love to have a bit more illustration of who's the person behind the company, Marco. So let's get to know you a little bit more as a person. Where did you grow up? What were you like as a kid, as a teenager? And were you always predestined to be this worldwide successful founder that you are today?
I'm basically here speaking to you from my home, my childhood home, here
Great.
in beautiful County Wicklow. And I was always difficult and precocious. Uh, that 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 maybe hasn't changed. Yeah, the entrepreneurial thing. I'm surrounded here by actually a lot of my father's creations. He was a serial entrepreneur in the classic sense. He has an agricultural business here and a software technology company.
Hmm.
So my choices were either go work for him or chart my own path. And we even still today, we would struggle to boil an egg together. So it had to be option B.
So has he also been an inspiration for you as an entrepreneur, even though you may not always get along with him very well?
Very much.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great advocate for thinking differently and thinking critically. He's very, very slow to accept any sort of authority.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of also asks, it inspires one to question and want to get back down to fundamental principles.
Yeah.
Why, and it's that systems thinking of wanting to piece together the story on your own terms that I think is really helpful.
You mentioned a few times as a last question, Marco, that thinking differently is so important. What would you tell founders is the most important thing you want to think different about?
But again and again and again, I just think people overestimate the downsides of things. Here's something that's really going on at the moment. Like for most of, I would say, our lifetimes, I think you're probably not a million miles away from where I'm at.
I'm 20, so yeah. I'm kidding.
For most of our lifetimes, right, we've lived in a world that collaboration and openness was the given direction. I've lived in the time where Ireland joined the European Union and the so on. And we're living in a slightly different time period at the moment where I think there's a lot more concern about the future. It's a lot less obvious that we're all going to get along. I think it requires more effort these days to re-rationalize the positives, the belief that actually 1 + 1 can be 3, that by working together we will have better outcomes. I just believe that is scientifically true. It is worthy of reminding ourselves of that. I might be influenced here by the fact that this morning, for whatever reason, on YouTube, I was being played a speech by Bobby Kennedy.
Okay.
It felt very quaint. I guess it's the 70s, the 60s, 70s.
60s, he died in 68, right? So yeah.
Right. This great American orator from this very different period of time where it was just real optimism for the future and a certainty that the future was getting better and a certainty that kind of a values-led society was the right way forward. I believe that's still to be true. It requires a little bit more effort to look beyond the headlines.
I love that. That's a perfect way of finishing the podcast. And if I had voting rights in Ireland, I would put you in the Doyle right away. So excellent. Well, thank you, Marco. This has been an amazing, especially thoughtful interview. I really appreciate that. You thinking through and bringing so many other viewpoints in there. Super rich content. Really love it. Marco Herbst, the CEO and founder of Evercam. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Roland. Much appreciated.
And for the listeners, of course, we'll have another founder on the show, Breakthrough AI Operators, next week. Probably not quite as amazing as Marco, but please do keep tuning in.
That's what a breakthrough actually looks like. One founder, one honest story, every week. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a founder you think is ready for it. Find us at baio.midstage.ac. See you in the next episode.